joining us at this point, we have political analyst Dr. Indira Rampersad. A pleasant good evening, ma'am.
Hi, good evening to you too.
Always a pleasure to have you on. Hope you're having a safe carnival.
Well, one never knows that in these times whether it's going to be safe or not.
And that brings us to our topic. I need to ask you, do you believe that Dr. Keith Rowley will be open of being part of the bipartisan crime talks hosted by the opposition?
No, I don't think so. I think those talks have already broken down. I don't think the Prime Minister is willing to work with the opposition. I think the Westminster adversarial model of governance supersedes everything. And even the lives and livelihood of our citizens is not enough to bring him to the table with her. She's invited him and he's refused. He invited her, but didn't want her entourage or persons that she elected. So we're seeing the talks are breaking down there. But really and truly, the onus is on the government. The government in power. The government has a responsibility. They were elected to govern. They were elected to govern effectively, and they were elected to protect the citizens. So the onus is on the government, really. What we haven't found is or seen is a comprehensive crime plan, which I keep calling for. So we really don't know what is the plan. I mean, we don't know.
I know there was some criticism as far as recommending the state of emergency. And basically what you just said, one would think, I mean, how are we as citizens to function if there's no confidence in the fact that the authorities are not even putting securing our lives as a priority?
And, it is very difficult to function because people are highly stressed, including myself. You're afraid to come out, you're afraid to walk the street, you're afraid to open your gate, you're afraid to drive, you're afraid to park your car, you're afraid to go into your car, come out of your car. So everyone is highly stressed at every level. The business sector, I think they're performing badly because people don't go into Port of Spain anymore to shop. So, for example, Chinatown there, Charlotte Street, Henry Street, Queen Street, I understand they are suffering significant losses because people are not shopping. They're afraid of the crime. And, we have school violence on the other hand. We have domestic violence on the other hand. So it's all kinds of different crimes. But I think the biggest problem right now are two types of criminal activity related to gangs, and one is drug related and one is not. One is robbery related, which I call banditry. So there are two types of gangs now in the country, and the second one, the banditry one, is wreaking havoc in the lives of the people, whereas the drug gangs, they're targeting specific persons involved in the whole drug trade, which is an international ring. The banditry is anyone, and many of those, some of those are crimes of opportunity. So it's who they find where and when, if available, or they may target some of their victims as well.
Dr. Rampersad, this is where we want the conversation to be. I mean, you go on a daily basis. People, again, especially senior citizens, are afraid to come out to run errands. People are living in fear. And yesterday, one expected, of course, from last Friday, when we were told by the Prime Minister that he will deal with the issue of crime, he will speak about it, which was yesterday. Instead, he spoke about a 2017 report of the Manpower Audit Committee. And that took us back to some years. As well as it'd be good to go back and look at some of these historical factors, how is that going to benefit the operations of the TTPS today, that they can function as far as to serve and protect?
Well, it just reiterates, and I had said it publicly in the newspaper, that I didn't expect anything to come out of yesterday's. I think the 2017 paper was a red herring, was a big diversion from the fact that it didn't have a plan. So I don't know if that is going to be considered the plan. Because we had also done one, what we call the Ryan Report, where I also contributed significantly, No Time to Quit, Engage in Youth at Risk, 2013. Some of the recommendations are applicable then. Some of the recommendations in 2017 report are applicable. But the point is, what we're trying to understand is what is the plan? What is the plan of the government? What recommendations therein are they going to implement? What is the solution? Because right now we know the problems. Reports after reports have been done. Okay, and even between 2013 and 2017, there have been crime reports done by the IADB. There are different international agencies producing crime reports. You know, well-written reports, well-researched, and with great recommendations. But nothing's been implemented. Okay, and we don't know today what are the solutions. So we need to hear from the Prime Minister and his team. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These are recommendations that we have selected from those experts that have produced these reports, and we are going to try to implement them. That is where we are now. It's time for action. There's no time to talk and research and narrate and, you know, go back into history. We know what the problem is. We want to implement recommendations. We want solutions.
And I agree with you. And I'm certain that many of the viewers here who are locked on, they definitely agree with you. When it comes to action, the people, the citizens of this country, yes, we want that. We don't expect a success rate overnight, but we want to see some things implemented, some action, some plan. But that's difficult when we are at the mercy of the criminals and we have those in authority who would not even acknowledge the fact that we are under siege by criminals. Instead, looking for kinks in the armor of anyone who puts out a discussion, a symposium. According to Dr. Rowley, he dismissed the anti-crime talks being hosted by the opposition UNC as a pappy show. Dr. Rowley insisted that the attendance at these events was not a true reflection of citizens' concerns about crime.
And we know that is not true because we hear the individuals coming out from all walks, from all races, all ethnicities, all groups. They're coming out and they're giving their personal experiences at these forums. So I disagree, totally disagree. I spoke at one of these forums, the first one at La Jolla. I spoke at that one and I saw the composition of that crowd. That was not a UNC crowd. And by the way, it was an opposition forum, whether you want to make the distinction between opposition and UNC. The opposition is an arm of the government. It was an opposition forum, and I saw people of all walks coming there and sharing their personal experiences with crime. So I don't think it is time to politicize. And but you see, this is his problem. He's diverting and making lame excuses, but it is not the opposition problem to solve. The government, the one that was elected, the one that is in power, the one that has the resources, the one that controls the public purse, whoever would have been the government of the day, would be responsible for alleviating the problem. You know, so while we're hearing all these views and they have commissioned all these reports, it is now time to implement and to act. And it is only the government can do that. Nobody else can do that. I cannot do that, and you cannot do that. We can talk from now until time immemorial, but we do not have the jurisdiction, the power, nor the resources to do that.
Yeah, one would think that the Prime Minister would attend one of these forums and perhaps get an insight, a one-on-one insight, personal experience with what these people are saying on the platform, how they're expressing their problems as far as dealing with crime in their communities. But instead, he's saying that someone is trying to get political, which the opposition is trying to get political mileage and traction out of it. Now, when he asked about this $100 million allocated to fight crime in hotspots, he said a pool of resources will deal with certain specific problems addressing the causes of crime, advised by a report by the JSC on national security. We just had Mr. Warner on, and he said this $100 million figure was just, grabbed out of thin air. And so one has to ask the question, is Dr. Rowley not campaigning more than anything else when he talks about this large sum of money going into the same communities that he simply don't want to acknowledge is dealing with the crime situation?
But exactly how, you see, how is this money going to be spent? And, I don't expect or think that he would go to one of these opposition crime talks, but he can hold his own. If he thinks that this is a political gimmick, right, and people being gunned down on a daily basis, lives being lost, okay, by the hundreds on a monthly basis, if he thinks that this is political gimmickry, then he should hold his own and give the population the opportunity to speak at a PLM forum. If he thinks it's UNC politics or opposition politics, because I can tell you many people are concerned. I heard David Abdullah talking about hosting a crime forum. I heard Gary Griffith talking about hosting a crime forum. I have been approached at the UE to host one as well. So this is not about playing politics. This is not about playing politics. This is people's lives. This is different. Now he has to guard because there's an election coming on 2025, and crime is definitely going to play. And this is not politicizing crime, but this is talking about the reality of the day of what is happening, and that he cannot escape. So if he thinks it is all opposition talks, then why did he go to the US to get assistance?
Yeah. And if we're having all of these forums, which is good, I mean, it's good to have this dialogue. Again, it's coming from the people who are experiencing what's taking place on a daily basis. But if the authorities refuse to acknowledge this, are we on autopilot, basically?
Well, it is very, very worrying that you would, politicize this issue, divert, make red herrings out of it, and do not attempt to try to come up with solutions, which is what everybody is waiting for with bated breath. People are waiting to hear what is the plan, what is the crime plan, and we are not hearing it. We hear some figure thrown out there, 100 million. Yeah, what exactly, how are you going to deal with it? Because where is not a hotspot? Tell me, where is not a hotspot? I can tell you in 2013, when we did the crime report, we identified some hotspots. So it's Beetham and Laventille, and, there were certain clear hotspots. Today, St. Augustine, it's a very urban middle-class area, is a hotspot, a serious hotspot. Tunapuna, a serious hotspot. These were not hotspots in 2013. Right, and the gangsterism, the banditry, these young boys just forming groups 3, 4, 5 and entering people's homes, the home invasion. So if you're not safe in your home, where are you safe? This is the question. If you're not safe in your house, where do you go? Where do you run for shelter?
Well, yesterday it seemed as though on the press conference, the Prime Minister basically threw the TTPS under the bus, talking about the fact that many of them were totally unmotivated. There was a problem as far as getting good people out of the organization. Is that fair, especially when you have men and women putting their lives on the line on a daily basis? Should this be the conversation we're having now?
Well, you see, again, he looks for guinea pigs. So on the one hand, and totally contradicting himself, on the one hand, he keeps the police commissioner. Right? When there are calls for her to step down, and she messed up in that whole inquiry there with the senators, and he keeps her, but at the same time he's now blaming the officers. Many of them are hardworking. I agree with you. It's unfair. There are a few bad apples, yes, but many of them are very, very hardworking officers, and credit should be given to them. Due credit should be given to them. So it's lame, what I would say, lame excuses, and just diversionary tactic. What he fails to understand is that basic things he's talking to, and I would lapse into my political scientist cap here, that basic things he's talking to is also seriously affected by the crime. No one is escaping unscathed this round. So they're also affected, so they're not swallowing the garbage. They're not swallowing the hogwash anymore.
Yeah, and you're right, because if you look at today's editorial, and many people are weighing in on it, when you had the political editor, Ria Tate at The Express, asked about the fact that people felt a sense of hopelessness in the country, Dr. Rowley responded by saying, I am the leader of the PNM and a PNM government. He said, and we are not about hopelessness. Is he under the belief that the people who are living in these areas who vote for PNM are not as well under siege by the criminal elements?
Well, I would love to know what that means. We are not about hopelessness. No government would be about hopelessness, but that is the reality on the ground. The people are experiencing hopelessness. He may not be about it, and he better deal with it, because that also includes his base, But he should not be implementing policies that are partisan, that are political. The policies should be to the benefit of the entire nation. It should not be political. But even that statement makes absolutely no sense to me, because I don't know why any politician would want to say I'm not about hopelessness. That goes without saying, But the reality on the ground is that the people are hopeless. Yeah. And that is what he has to deal with, the fact that the people are hopeless, not what he's about.
And let me ask you this. We're about a year and a half away from the calling up the general election 2025. Moving forward, there are many, many issues. And if you look at it now, it seems that the government may be up against the wall with this dragon gas deal. We the citizens hope that something could come about that reignite and start our economy once again. But all our economic eggs are in this one dragon gas deal basket, compounded with the issue of crime, compounded with the perception that many of the independent offices have been tarnished because of alleged political interference, and the list goes on. How serious is 2025, do you believe, in the minds of the citizens?
I think the government has cause to be seriously concerned. The PNM has cause to be seriously concerned because you mentioned Dragonfield, and we are not aware of what are the terms and conditions of that contract. We are not aware of what is in that contract. What I know, is that the government was given permission to explore oil in some Venezuelan waters, or some, territory that is between Venezuela and Trinidad. But why would Venezuela want to do that? And what is the deal? What are the terms and conditions? What is Venezuela getting out of it? So I don't know what is happening with Dragon Fields, and I hope Freedom of Information Act, somebody invoke it. We can know, the population needs to know, because that is taxpayers' money.
I agree with you 100%, especially when you have a prime minister saying that this is going to help with the future generation of our children. We really and truly want to make sure that everything there is transparent and moving forward.
What is going to help?
Yeah,
what
and definitely,
help?
yeah, and it could materialize and become a reality. Final question, politically, Michaela Pandey, what's your take? She's putting her hat in the ring for 2025. What are her chances, do you believe?
Well, she says she's putting her hat in the ring, and I imagine she has a political party, the Patriotic Front, so I imagine she's going that way. She said something about overtures to UNC not working out. I don't know how much of that is fact or not, but no, I think it's another third party, and it's not going to really make a dent in the politics. Always been my position. It's a two-party system, not only in Trinidad and Tobago, in most of the Caribbean, and also the United States. There are a number of issues that any political party can hone on, and that includes what we just mentioned: crime, Dragonfield, but don't forget property tax, rising cost of living, including food, fuel, transportation, housing. All of these will play in the political platform for 2025.
So true. I want to thank you so much for taking time out and linking with us. Hope you have a very safe carnival, and we look forward to talking to you again in the near future. Best of luck, and do have a wonderful evening.
May you and our viewers keep safe. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rampersad.